Hello there, this is Harry Du. In this video, I want to show you some user and user group management APIs in MicroStrategy Python SDK, Mysterio Pi. In this video, I'm going to show you list user and user group, create user, modify user, adding addresses, grant and revoke privileges, and manage security roles, creating user group and adding user group, adding user to group. And I will do a separate video for security filter. Let's get started. So here I'm going to create a connection, use my own environment, create a connecting object. So first thing I want to do is I want to list all the available user in the system in my server. So here I have a list of users. So what I want to do is I want to create two users here. Create two users. So I define an array, including the username, full name, and password. In order to create user, you can look up the documentation how to create a user. We can see documentation about creating user. So you need a connection object. You need a connection object and username. We can also see the signature. So using this inspect signature, passing this parameter function name, you can see the signature of the function. So connection is required, username is required, full name is required, password is optional. The rest are all optional. So here I have a username, full name, and the password. I'm going to set the password the same as the login, just for testing. So after this, I'm going to create a, after doing this, I will create two users, right? So two users are created. If I run this list again, I can see the two users, Atlantic manager and Miami manager are created. So if I want to see the, if I want to get a user, I can use ID. I can get a user by ID here. I can copy the user ID here. Okay, right. So it gets give me the Atlantic manager user. I can also use. So here, let me try to. We can also get a user by name, username. So I have a username Atlanta and Miami. So if I run this, you'll see the user one is Atlanta manager and user two is Miami manager. I'm going to use these two objects and to modify the user. So let's see what we can do with the user object. So you can look up the documentation for the user. It lists all the properties, and you can also see the properties. Calling this, it will show the properties. It takes some time to fetch the information. Yeah, so you will see the information about this user. So user one is Atlanta manager. We can also use this to list all the privileges for the user. So you'll see this one has some privileges, but what I want to do is I want to add two privileges to the user so that we can use this user to log into MicroStrategy library and see the dossier in library. So here, before I do that, let me try to modify the user. So let's see, try to see other APIs. So you can, if you want to, you can add addresses to the user. So if I see this, there's no address defined for the user, right? This user one is Atlanta manager. So if you look at the documentation, you can add a name. If you want to, if you call this method, add address, you pass a name, address, and another default, whether this address should be default. I'm going to try to add two addresses. First is name is Atlanta. The second one is Atlanta 2, and the first one is default. So I'm going to add these two, and then I can check the address again. See, it has a two address added. If I want to remove, I can call this method to remove the address. Let's call this. So if I can remove address by the name or by the address, so both will work. If I try to call this two, okay, so I can use the alter method to modify the user object, right? User properties. Let's see, for this example, I want to modify the full name. So let's run this. The full name will be changed. If I try to fetch the user again, you'll see the full name will be changed. If I run this again, and you see the full name is changed. All right, let's grab some privileges. So right now, if I try to log into MicroStrategy library, so let's try to open in my. All right, so I have this, and when I try to log in, it doesn't allow me to log in because I don't have a privileges, right? So let's go back to the Python notebook, grant some privilege. So this is Atlanta manager user. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to grant a user privilege to view the library. So first I need to find out what privilege I need to use. And you can use this method. You use this class privilege list and to see all the available privileges in the system. So if I try to run this, you'll see a list of all the privileges. When you grant the privileges to the user, you can use ID, you can use name, or you can also use the privilege object. So in this example, I'm going to use just ID. So I found the two IDs. One is the 267. It's for 267. 267 is use library web, right? The other one is 241. 241 is run.a. So I'm going to allow user to log into library web and run.a. So I'm going to add these two privileges to user 1 and user 2. So okay, now I added this to user 1 and user 2. So now I can check whether I have these privileges. I want to check user 1's privilege and as well as user 2. So user 1, it should have a 267, the two villages I just added. So use, right, web library 267 and 241. Right? So I have these two privileges. I can also check another user. So I don't, yeah. So let's assume it works. Now I have these privileges, right? I can try to log in again. So I think I need to log in again, relog in order to make it work, in order to see the effect. If I try to just refresh, it doesn't work. So I need to log in again. Just okay, and logging again. Okay, logging with credential. I change the credential. Okay, now I logged in. Now I can see, right? After logging, I can see MicroStrategy library, and I can skip the tutorial, and I can also run .a. If I run this, I see. Yeah, I can see like some .a. I can also remove privileges using the revoke privilege method. You can also use a list of ID, list of name, or list of objects, privilege objects. So you can see the security filter of the user. We have a user 1. Let's see security filter. Right now, I don't have any security filter assigned, right? So it should show up. Okay, the security filter is empty. So we can also apply a security filter, and I'll show you how to apply a security filter in the next video. Okay, so let's look at the security roles. And from the user, you can see a list of security roles for each of the project, right? And if you want to remove, you can remove security roles by the role ID and the project name. Next, I'm going to show you create a user group. So I'm going to create a new group called a special user. So if you, let's first list all the groups we have. So if you, we can do list user group, passing connection information. So it will list all the user group. So let's try to delete it first. So I'm going to delete the user group first. I'm going to say the user group. Okay, I'm going to get a user group first. I can get a user group by ID. So, okay, user group. I can get a user group by ID. I'll delete the special user group first. Here. Okay, so this is my group. After calling this, I have a group object, and now I can call group dot delete. It will delete. I can say yes, it will delete my user group. Now, if I see the user group again, it's gone, right? Special user is gone. So now I can create the group. So I'm going to create a group called special user, and I'm going to add these two users into my special group. Now this two belongs to a special group. Another way to add a user to group is you can start with a user object. You can say user1, add to a group. So now we have a group created. You can also remove delete user. So I will use this to user later. So I don't want to delete. So if you want to delete user, you can call user delete. You can call if you pass the Boolean true, it will not ask you a prompt. It will delete without asking question. You can also delete the group, use group.delete. Yeah, so in this video, I show you how to use the some of the APIs for managing user and user group. And in the next video, I'm going to do a video about security filter. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.